Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Tanmoy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. So, hello, everyone who joined us today, our Be Excellence conference. My name is Darina, and I will be your moderator for this talk. I want to present you our first speaker, Tanmoy Patra. And Tanmoy, just before we started, I want to ask you several questions to hit the atmosphere, right? So yeah, we discussed that it could be weather, but I think it's
Nice.
better to start with some words about you. So please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm working at Miro. I'm a senior data scientist here. So currently based out of Amsterdam. I have around 8 to 9 years of experience in data science, and yeah, it's a good, wonderful opportunity to speak to everyone here and present the work that we are doing to the overall team. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so maybe you want to talk about your previous experience. So now you're working in Miro, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you want to talk about previous experience in this sphere in IT.
Sorry, can you repeat?
In IT, yeah, your previous experience in
Oh,
IT.
yeah. Prior, I started my career at Deloitte. So it's a consulting firm. Post that, I moved to Walmart. So gather experience both in retail and across the different sectors. So finally, I came to Miro. So I like the way the visualization dashboard essentially picked up, and how people are collaborating. So it was really insightful to interview at Miro and get to know their vision and culture. And post that, I relocated to Amsterdam to work here. So yeah, that's the overall part. And by the way, like today in Amsterdam, the weather is really nice. So it was a bit more sunny last week, but this week is like milder, very good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, and I know that my mic is not the best now. I'm really sorry about that from the audience. So I think we need to quit our small talk in this moment, and I can pass mic to you, Tanmoy. Please share your screen, and let's begin.
Okay, sure. So hi everyone. I'll start sharing. Okay. Um, Let me know if everyone can see it. Sorry. Share screen. Yeah. Is the screen visible? Hi, Daniel. I just wanted to confirm, is the screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted a confirmation. Yeah, that's it. Okay, cool. So hi everyone. So here I'm about to talk about intent AI. So I initially called the topic crystal ball. I wanted that to be a bit of a suspicion, like exactly what are we going to talk about. So it's basically about uh, enabling or understanding what's the user's intent is on Miro. I'll talk exactly what we do in the coverage. So yeah, it's about understanding what the intent of the user would be. So briefly, as part of the agenda, I'll try to cover what's Miro, a brief overview about that. What problem are we trying to solve? The intuition behind like the features we try to prepare before going into the architecture, then comparing, okay, then what we had and what we are going to see, and then in terms of the model performance. And after all everything is covered, the main part of the storytelling is how do we use all of these models together to build something or to get insights to be which are more actionable. So that's the overall agenda that I'll be covering over the next 30 minutes or so. So about Miro overall. So welcome everyone. So Miro is an online collaborative whiteboard. So it's an infinite canvas that you get to do anything that you want to. So all your thoughts that you have to scribble down in one platform, get your thought organized, disorganized, everything in one place. This is the concept. This is a place where you can do anything or everything that you imagine. So when we came up, so back in the time during COVID, we essentially picked up. We went out to a population of around 55 million active registered users that we have right now, with over 100 integrations with different apps, Slack, Google. We have like almost all the coverage that we essentially want to get, partnering with over 99% of the Fortune 100 clients, like essentially all, to be precise. And then we are going into the community where we can get more and more usage, uh, or get the community feedback on templates and all that. So to be simple, it's one place for all, an infinite canvas that you can lay down your thoughts and do anything that you want. It gives you a feeling that you are all sitting in one room to work. So it was very helpful when we during the pandemic, when people could not relocate together. So it just picked up, and it gave a feeling where you are all working together. And even now, where when we are collaborating across different countries, different teams, it's very helpful to brainstorm together and do those. Let me go to the second page uh, to give Miro a bit of life and what we essentially do. On so on the left you can see that there are multiple things being projected, like, so different people are working together right now, and they're doing a bunch of amazing things. Maybe somebody is like trying to organize some thoughts, they are putting some feedbacks, all of it in one place. So it's a good collaboration tool. And the way people try to use Miro is for these purposes. It could be planning, so they have this thing upcoming and they want to plan something out. So more about strategy, timelines, and all that. They could be researching on something, or maybe a new research topic, and you want everything in one place. So instead of having a notepad, you can start dumping PDFs or all your research material in one place, and get a holistic view of it. Brainstorming, people can think about multiple aspects. The team could essentially come up together and try to come up with a topic that they have been working towards, and brainstorm ideas. So, and there are different apps or toolkits we provide essentially with respect to that. There could be designing aspects, so a product designer or somebody can come and use it. And also engineering aspect, one of the primary use cases, how can we use this as an engineering tool? Can we maintain all our essential tickets or working progress, or the agile or the MVP approaches all in one place? Can we do that? Yes. It's all together. You can all collaborate and make things better. So so this is the tool that I'm going to talk about, and how the main agenda would be, how essentially can we understand the user perspective here? How can we improve the experience? And that's the metric you want to essentially target. Can we make this platform to the best collaborative platform out there? And can we improve the user experience? to understand the user experience, it's very important that what users are actually doing. So as I mentioned, it's a place where you can put down all of your fuzzy work, all of your brain out there, which you would scribble on the board, you can actually put down on this Miro board, on this infinite canvas. And when you're doing it, you're exploring, you're collecting, you're trying to make sense of what we have. You're trying to co-create with others and trying to align on a particular concept. So all of this together, from unorganized content to a properly curated, beautiful content. This takes process and it takes time to get to that. How do we enable that? So every user that we have essentially comes to the board with an intent. He has a purpose in his mind, or the team has a purpose in his mind. What the way we look at the problem is, how can we cover or uncover hidden patterns within them to empower them? Can we empower them by providing them with the right perspective, with the right apps or the right bundles to get through? So to bottle down on the problem, what we decided is, or Miro decided that let's have a bunch of use cases that people, based on the research that we have done, what the primary use case a user can come to the board for, and how can we uncover those patterns? So for example, it could be meeting and workshops. From the prior, I talked about few topics. How can we give it a proper name that we can call use cases essentially? It could be meeting workshop, it could be agile workflows, it could be mapping and diagramming, it could be research design, it could be strategy planning. It's like bunch of 6 concepts out there that we want to identify. So a user comes to the board, can we understand what is he going to work upon, from by analyzing different things? When essentially I talk about these use cases which are very important that we want to uncover, it's very important to understand how does a board look like. This is one example. For example, this looks like a planning of for some casino night, some offsite planning probably, yeah. And you try to make sense of it because you are looking at certain details, maybe how the board is structured, or maybe some content of the board. Maybe the board was created by a user who essentially has done it in past, so he has done planning of these offsites prior in history, and those could be there. Maybe this board could be tagged around planning. I'm not sure, strategy planning or workshop. I mean, there's a thing that we can try to uncover, but that's the manual outlook when we look at it manually. For example, this one, like, you if you look at it, okay, this looks about reverse engineering. It talks about we can see Jira tickets out there talking about issues. This looks more like an agile workflow. So maybe somebody is trying to plan something around engineering, and but right now when we are looking at it, it's much more easier because we can do that. We can look at it. We can try to understand what they are, but it's a manual exercise, and we would not have time for every individual person to essentially come and look at it. Can we drive all of this together? Can we drive all of these things that we are trying to see or uncover through some sort of a model? And that's the concept. So if you have an entire board, at the granularity of the board, can we understand that what that board is about all of these different use cases? If we know that, then we can maybe empower the user with the right things, like maybe as you can see on the top, maybe the apps or right recommendations of some bundles. Who knows? Like, so let's uncover that. So this prior 2 slides, I try to tell the team exactly how does a board might look like. And by the way, boards are really complicated. It could be really messy. These are really organized ones which I put in place. It could be a bunch of things here and there, and we need to uncover the hidden patterns from there. So it's an infinite canvas, as I mentioned before, that you can work on. And to uncover, gather things from there is a tricky challenge. Okay, so now there is a purpose. We want to understand what the use case of the board is, and we have 6 use cases with us. How can we do that? Okay, so we are trying to build a recognition model. Okay, why we did not, or we could not do it earlier? Maybe so. The reason behind that was, prior when we were looking at it, we did not have labeled use cases. So train a machine learning model, one thing is very important, is how do we uncover, or how do we gather labeled data so that we can train our models? What the model essentially tries to do, it tries to learn the patterns in the data that you're training on, and tries to then score it out on the prediction or the testing data, or something that you have not seen till now. So this is very important to get this. The second thing was the complexity of the product. So initially, because of the hyper growth, so we expanded like 10 folds, multi-folds, like in the last few years. and it was very important to catch all of this complexity out there and make it much more scalable in terms and define this specific use cases. So that took some time. So then we brainstorm and got to the part where we can actually start collecting this table data to get to a use case where we can start modeling. So what we did was, there was a survey which was conducted. So every user who went to the board, they were asked this, like a simple pop-up, that which what are you going to use the board for? And this was our initial label data that we wanted to take it from. We got around 140K boards for every user who went to the board and then tagged it before using it. So we got that idea, and that's how we got our first labeling data. Now we have our label data. So we have the label, we have the concept of model. But the second important thing, which I tried to cover prior, was what are the patterns? We are looking for hidden patterns, or patterns that could be reflection of how the training data looks like, that we can capture by a discriminative model, and then use it to score our future data or future boards. So to get there, the this was intuition. What we did was, all of it was not done in one day. So it was an incremental process. How can we build better, incrementally better models? So step by step process. First, what we did was understand the user personas. When I talk about personas, um, what it essentially means is, a user could be designer, it could be a different roles like product manager, engineer. There could be different roles. It could be engineering manager. There are different things that a user could be. Then what kind of country he belongs to, for example, how many days he has been since registration, like when was the point he reached certain stages of life cycle in Miro. So we call something as aha moment and something as habit. So these things, when did he reach those stages in the life cycle process? Certain other things, like which kind of industry he belongs to, what kind of work the industry does. This was one insight that we started to get through. The second thing that was important is about how is the user essentially using the board. So on the board there, if you can see on the board, there are several widgets essentially being used right now. So if you can see, somebody's like, there are different widgets that are being placed. There are different apps that are being used. There could be particular excels or charts that are being leveraged out there. So different board activity that the user is pursuing. So these are different feature use cases that we have, that we provide to a user, and the user is essentially trying to use that on the board. And different users can do that. So on a board level, the prior one was user level. On a board level, how are we trying to capture the different things that we have in terms of activity? Which features are we leveraging more versus which is less? Which is the most popular feature for that board? Maybe if they're using a Kanban or a Jira ticket, that could be indication that he could be an engineering person who could be trying to map certain things. So that could be there. That's a concept. The third thing was, can we try to get a visual representation of the board? We have one limitation, that as per Miro policy, we do not train on customer data. And as of now, our policies do not, we do not have the textual data. Maybe last boards, when you're looking at it, you are trying to look, okay, this is a keyword that's looking like, but right now we don't train on Miro customer data based on our policies. And so how can we uncover the other things, the visual aspect? Can we derive insightful features from the different types of board? Maybe there's different use cases are designed differently when you put it on the board, and there could be multiple things in multiple places. Gathering the insight is very important. One thing which was also, like as I mentioned, one thing was important in activity was, like, a same feature could be used across like certain other, but maybe they are more predominant to a particular use case. So these two things combined will tell you on an overall level that what kind of features we can derive from the board. The third thing was user activities. Maybe how many boards did you open? How many times the prior board was opened, or how many times the user opened boards in the last? How many active days he had? How many sessions he had with on the board, for example, or even personally, NSM sessions, like so collaborating with multiple users, which was the top used feature for the user. These things represent user activity. Can we uncover that too? Yes, we have the data for it. We can use these patterns out there. We can learn from it. The last thing was about cadence of feature. So by cadence, what we try to mean is, for example, when we are doing a sprint planning, you have 2 weeks. So like you meet for first, I mean, on a particular day of the week, and then after 14 days, you do another set of planning. So you design your task for the next 2 weeks, and they visit the board only on those days. Maybe there are some syncs boards like which are open 2 times a week. So we normally sync 2 times a week as per engineering policies. So maybe there are some users who are using the board just for the initial few days and not opening it again. And then there are users who are opening it in regular recurrence. Like, so these are called cadence features. How can we understand what's the pattern or the time series pattern of these users when they're opening it? So all of these together was the thing that we want to incrementally check and see how they are benefiting the model. So yeah, overall, this was the intuition that we want to cover. Like after this ML features were designed, what we wanted to set is a pipeline towards the model. Is like, okay, we have all these boards that we have, and all of these boards that we have labeled data for, what we gather is all the ML features. So all the ML features come in. So we essentially want to train on them. The label is the use case. So the 6 use cases I pointed out. All of these features that you're seeing here were placed on feature store so that we can pull that seamlessly. So it gets updated on a daily basis. And then what we do is we do some transformations. So for every board, you get this bunch of features. You do this transformation, imputation, because there would be a lot of sparsity in some of the features. Not all the features are used, so you have to impute them using a ML algorithm. I mean, proper way of encoding and all that, like proper way of imputation. And after you have used the imputation, you want to encode them, or categorical features which were there. You want to encode them properly. So there were a bunch of numerical features and there were a bunch of categorical features. So the way we targeted them was we imputed the numerical features slightly differently than how we did with the other ones. And based on different features, we had a different logic around it. Post this, after you have got all the data, you can obviously test your models trying to fit any of the models. Like we tried different models out there. All of these like visual features and all that were combined together. We got a final set of things. And then we tried to fit a multi-class model on top of it. And then obviously we divided our data into proper train and split. Once we got a reasonable set of accuracy or reasonable set of precision that we wanted to achieve, we wanted to productionalize that. All of these that you are seeing on a board level, so is every board. We get the use case for every board with certain probabilities. So it gives you probabilities for all of these different use cases. And then we try to write it out to a snowflake table or something so that we can do further processing on top of it, and which can also be used by any of the other counterparts or other end users who want to use this information about a board or for a particular user. Because the problem statement was about understanding what the users intended, what we do is we summarize or we aggregate all of these probabilities. So for example, a user could be tagged to 10 different boards or 20 different boards. And when the user is tagged to 20 different boards or he's working on that, he has a bunch of like this, some would be good, like we can detect the probabilities, like, and some would be, so on an average, if we can aggregate them based on his last activity over certain months, we can understand what he was actually wanting to work. We can get an overall idea that what is his top use case that he's coming to the board for. And all of this can derive a lot of value. So to summarize briefly, like we took a bunch of persona features, board states, activity, cadence, we combined them in ML features. We try to train our machine learning model, and then we put it into production, which essentially tries to run daily to get these tables for us, which is aggregated then on a user level to understand what the use case of a particular user is. So yeah, the user is happy. I mean, right now, so because we get some sort of an estimation for it. But what was the scenario like? So if you did not have this architecture, maybe could not we have done just a simple approach? What are the pros and cons out here? It's very important to highlight. It's very important to understand from the storytelling aspect that what we have versus what we have achieved. Prior, there was just rules defined by product on terms of, okay, based on this role of the user, maybe this features, maybe this is the use case. But here we have a personalized model for every single board aggregated over users. So it's like almost at a user level, board level, so which is very insightful. So we are going down to the most granular thing at the widgets on a board, and that is the thing that drives us. The second thing was about feature engineering. So you cannot derive a lot of rules. It becomes complex because the product itself is very complex. In the hypergrowth phase, we have released a bunch of products and a bunch of features. Defining rules over all of these capabilities is very difficult. But with this bunch of features that an ML model can handle is much more insightful. It can capture all of these things and give you a much more better result. So that's more mathematical and statistical way of doing it. We have models and we have parameters. On a rule-based approach, you cannot update any parameters. It's a costly. What they can do is only experiment. You can have A/B tests, and then on A/B test, which is costly process, and then you would go back and refine. Here we can tune our parameters by a Bayesian approach. So we did Bayesian optimization to a incrementally better model, tuning all our parameters, and then having a proper cross validation to understand that these models are actually better and performing better. As post processing also, when you get a bunch of from a rule or something or a baseline approach, you cannot change it much. But here we provide the flexibility that even if a product team comes with a particular use case of a particular uh, target users, we can essentially create the results for them and provide it back to them. So it's like that's scalable, and you can also change certain things, and it's much more easy. So after getting the production output, can be also changed based on, maybe I want the last 6 months activity of the user to aggregate the boards, maybe 3 months, and this is much more tunable. You cannot do that with a normal baseline or a rule based approach. It's very important to understand what intent AI or what ML essentially brings to the plate out here. So obviously, when we talk about model, we always talk about performances and what metrics we're essentially trying to look at. So, so in terms of metric, the primary metric we started looking at is precision at one. That okay, of all the use cases, what was the top use case which was recommended in terms of probabilities? Once we get the top use case, or the top probability use case, is it actually matching with the label data or not? So obviously we started a bit low when we started with the baseline approach of choosing on what are the onboarding there were some roles. We only used a couple of features like the user profile, like basically self-reported roles and other things to create a baseline model. And then from there we added all of these incremental features I talked about, all the user personas, then user activity, board states. And then you can see the precision essentially at one from 34.3 it increased to 67.1. And then so it was a uplift that we really see. The second insight from this, like when you are struggling or something, it's very important to second best understand that there is an overlap of certain features. There are, as I showed in one of the prior diagrams, that there were features which can belong to both the use cases. And then we felt that maybe understanding that, okay, not only recommending the one use case, but two use case might be more insightful. Because maybe a user who's coming for one could also be linked with one other team who is doing a driving. I mean, like maybe agile person can work with mapping and diagramming. That could essentially happen. So the top two use cases, so precision at 2 was around 81.2%. This is again without any text data, by the way. So because as I mentioned of the policies, which is a very good uplift that we have. And DCG, we also were tracking some other metrics. DCG essentially tells you how the ranked predictions are. And this is one of the other metrics, but which we attained a point of 84.1%. So how high in the rank of the actual use case you are versus like if you're in first rank or second rank, that actual use case, this is what it tries to capture. The major focus from the product side was how good are we doing at precision at 2 and how good are we doing at precision at 1, because it's much more easier for them to explain it to anyone. So yeah, this is how the performance essentially look like. But okay, all of this performance for what? We essentially want to build ML model to get to something, to drive insights, to help the product, to help the business grow, to improve user experience. And the most important part for us was the user experience. If users like our product, they will stick to it. If they stick to it, we essentially value. I mean, essentially, they collaborate more. The company grows, we grow, their organization, and that's the success we want to essentially see. How can we empower our users by these ML models is the insight we want to drive. So coming to that, okay, so as I mentioned, audience engagement is the key. And use case can be an enabler for that. It's a pitch stop or it's a stop that we are trying to take to understand them. So user can belong to multiple industries, as you can see on my left. So it could be agile workflow, it could be company management consultant, like all the different Fortune 100 clients that we essentially had. There are different use cases for them. Different users coming for it. And all of their fuzzy thoughts, all of their thought process that they have, they can essentially put down on the Miro board for exploration purpose. And what we do is we take that and uncover those ML features that we talk about, and then try to use our IntentionAI model to determine the use case for it. When we determine the use case for this, what we get is maybe we get a top higher probability for research and design, and maybe second was mapping and diagramming for that user. What we can empower the user by, we can provide, okay, Can you use this BI intelligence toolkit for your design? Maybe you can draw your design, your graphs or Excel or something. That can be done. We can provide those app bundles out there. We can also provide them with, like, for example, a second use case was he was doing mapping in time. Can we give them a mind map or something? Can we give them a better way of flowcharting or architecture design? So this enabling the user will help the user link to us more. When you like something, you stick to them better. With also, not only that, when we know the use case of a user, we can also empower them with all of our custom templates that we have. There are custom templates designed for each of these different use cases, and then you get the recommendation that which one you want to use, and then they can make their work much more faster and much more better prepared, and they can put them down in those templates out there. This will make the user make progress faster, drive stickiness to for an adoption. It's very important. By empowering our users to get to the right capabilities, will increase the collaborative nature and make them do the work faster. And they will stick to Miro for this work again and again. High adoption rate, by the way, if we do that. And we're observing it through the experiments that we perform. So again, these things are being across, like, so we have been providing this for like product services, development, distributed teams, I mean, across all user base. Okay, let's look at a slightly different perspective. Based on what we saw prior, a user thinks sometimes that they are coming to Miro with only one project or one use case. Post the project or that thing is over, maybe they will try to diverge from it. They will maybe not use it. I mean, like, or that. So it's about the importance of where we draw the trade-off. So when we get two use cases defined, those users can be empowered with the second best use case that they had to tell them that, okay, these are the second things that you can apply. So if you look at this image right now, as I mentioned, like, so the same use cases can be leveraged across different use cases, and maybe there was some overlap. Maybe that's the reason we are trying to recommend two use cases to the GTM team, so that they can understand how can we grow. So the prior slide that I show was going more into the depth of it. When you identify a use case, a top use case, can we go into the depth of it, provide the right apps for that use case, provide the right integrations for it, provide the right bundles? But when we know an extra thing, how do we leverage that? Can we increase the horizontal capability of the user? Can we enhance or upskill the user on these things, which he also takes up as a other job or other skill sets or other thing that he's working on parallelly? That is the empowerment we are trying to provide. So trying to prevent from diverging to convergence. We are trying to enable the user to do more with what they have and for this opportunity. So we are also experimenting on this, and we are observing that it's more likely that the user will converge because we are providing them an additional use case. So two aspects. This is not only to focus only on the vertical proficiency of it, but to expand horizontally. So the go-to-market people are essentially trying to leverage this and essentially work towards it. So that both the user is happy and and we uncover more. So this is a bit like it's like an overview, like all the applications that we can do on the board. Like, so for example, if you see, if a user goes on a particular board, he gets this app recommendation. Based on the use case, this app recommendations can be reshuffled based on the importance of a particular app towards that use case. When a new user onboards, maybe he's a bit conflicted about so many features on Miro. It's about explaining or maybe providing them with a checklist that, okay, these are the things that you can use based on the use case. This will help upskill you. And maybe once they are 71 or some percentage done, they will feel more comfortable that, okay, we have got a particular onboarding, personalized onboarding for us. It's much more helpful and much more insightful. Can we provide them the right templates? So for example, you see here for use section, this is another model we have for the picker. But again, when we drive this insight of use case, they can be recommended maybe a proper app template for them. These are the things that we can look at. The other important thing which we also performed an experiment upon was, can we improve the experience on email? On email, we send a bunch of things. We send a bunch of newsletters. We send a bunch of campaigns. We talk about how can we empower users with these different things. We release newsletters and product updates. Sometimes that could be lost because maybe we're not specific or targeting the user with the right use case. Understanding what the user is actually using Miro for, and then changing the content based on the users, we essentially see a better traction. And that's what we saw. We saw a 14% uplift when we send emails with a better content, with the understanding of the user. So if you see here, they are different content slightly based on which use case they belong to. So like there would be a generic one which was all general, and that saw a lower traction, versus when you compare this with individual mapping and diagramming, brainstorming boards, the content is much more different. So yeah, we saw a better traction. That was one successful experiment that we initially A/B tested on to check. Now, all of these things are on the board. How can we empower our users on the board itself? What we are also trying to target is to understand that how can we empower our client base. So, for example, once we detect a use case, can we help the product team, the salespeople, or the go-to-market playbooks to enable them to understand that which are the use cases that the company could be focusing upon? For example, if we talk about Intel, they do a lot of chip designing, or maybe we compare it with a consulting firm. They would be doing it. They be using it for some other visual encapsulation or visual utilities. So there's a different use case for everyone, and when we target those specific use cases to draw more capabilities, we see a broader market potential. We see when a particular client essentially wants to use a particular use case more, we can provide the right capabilities for them. So it's understanding or be thoughtful about what the user or what the companies or the organizations need from us. And rather than focusing upon all the things, it's very important to focus on very specific sections that we can improve upon. So as I mentioned, we provide this flexibility to collaboratively review architectural designs across these different platforms, and then we are going to the market with better insights and metrics that we can prioritize our roadmaps on. Once we talk to this already converged client, we can understand what the requirements are and prioritize a roadmap for them and make things much more better. We call this operational value selling. So we are trying to sell more value based on what we detected prior. So yeah, this is one thing which we are trying to explore much more. So to summarize all these different insights that I talked about, one way to look at it is maybe increasing the vertical proficiency of it. So once you know a user's use case, you want to grow vertically. You want to recommend right apps for that. Better recommendations, better feature uses. The primary use cases draw more users of the user, deeper feature adoption. The user knows exactly how to go from a basic level to an advanced pro level, because those apps are being recommended, and that can enable the users from trying something which would be much more complicated at a much more ease of value, so they can quickly get those apps and then work towards it. Focusing upon the horizontal capability, so like how can we increase their proficiency? So this is more for drawing the stickiness of the user, of not only from primary but increasing their stickiness over the entire platform, not just for one project but across projects. It's an opportunity driver, and that can essentially help user retention more. So we want to make this platform for all use cases. So we are tightly coupling maybe what are the top 2 use cases for the user, and then recommend them rightly for that. When we are doing all of these things, one thing is very important is the speed of inference. What are we doing? So are we right now, what we do is we run it on a daily basis. It's a pipeline that runs. We pass a batch, and use case do not change very often because we are trying to take a last few months of user activity. But it's very important to also understand that when we are doing it real time, that could be more accessible to all of these featured products right there and there, because we are leveraging feature stores. So we can populate our boards with the latest use case, and that can help these different things like onboarded users can have right tool guidance. Real-time things can essentially help. So we are also trying to explore what is the speed of inference that we want to do, like draw. How often do you want to do it? That is one potential area that we are also looking at. Then also, like when you do all of this, you want to draw some premium for a specific use case. So understand based on the GTM, based on the market, understand exactly what use case they want, and then drive your roadmap or sales to drive more consistency, value, provide more value, provide better service offerings that these business people or this industry will stick to us. They will use Miro to provide a better collaboration structure. The more users we have, we understand that insight better, and then that's a North Star metric. We want the collaboration to be for there, and our users should be facing seamless experience on Miro. They should be working. They should be having this the best of experiences, and yeah, that's the target essentially. Have more collaboration, have more insights. Okay, so I just want to at the end I want to thank my team who are involved. Um, they are the brains behind this work alongside us, and there was certain experimentation that we did. So yeah, happy that we work together. Um, that's it. Right on time. So yeah, I'll now start wait for questions so that I can help people understand a few things better.
Yeah, thank you, Tanmoy.
Yeah.
So, first question,
Yeah.
do my mic work better now?
Yeah,
Is
yeah, it's
there
fine. No, no,
no
it's fine. Tell me.
metallic sound?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So, thank you so much. Thank you for this great speech. I think it's very insightful, and we get a lot of great information, a lot of great tips from you. So, the main two questions we have in the chat is, are these features already available on Miro? Can we, as a usual users, just reach them and use?
So, okay. So just to correct that point slightly, the features are already so. Like for example, there are different features which are available on user. The idea is to understand that which user to recommend what. So use cases are not features. Use cases are the classes or the thing that we want to understand, that what is the user's intent that is coming to the board for. So these things are already, some of these are already productionalized. We are trying to leverage it in more and more scale right now. One thing. So right now, what we are providing is, when we have these use cases, we are writing it back to a Snowflake table where all of these end users who are there, they can directly query that which user has which use case, and then do their contextualization. On the Miro platform itself, we have started integrating on a couple of apps already, and the rest of the apps will follow down the line. But as of now, couple of like, you will see there are better recommendations on certain features, and that is essentially trying to leverage what is the use case that is there. But a few things are in pipeline and in roadmap that we'll be covering in the next couple of quarters. So yeah, more and more these things will be this will be brought into this production environment. Yeah, so
Okay,
that is
yes,
one thing.
yeah, got it. And we have also a question. Um, is it available for free version of Miro? Maybe.
Yeah, uh, so Miro provides like three boards for um, 3 to 4, I think, public boards that they can leverage. What we had essentially, because there's a restriction on 3 4 boards, sometimes what the user would tend to do is they would try to do work on all the use cases, and then it could become fuzzy. What we trained the model on was all the corporate users, enterprise users that we have, but these features are available across. But the precision of, sometimes when on a free board, it could that is something, because there could be multiple use cases. So these apps are available for all. This is the precision we see, but um, getting to the version which is open for all uh, could drive a higher value. But all of these features that we are talking about is available on the free version. The users can essentially use it. They can actually see what are the apps which are being recommended to them, or like, I mean, but some of these things are in pipeline, and we want to slowly plan to roll out to them, like based on corporate users, and then channel them down.
Okay, thank you for the answer. We also have a question from our audience on your community platform. So I will read it to you. If I'm not mistaken, you said that you use 140K for ML model, but you should have much more boards for research. Have you limited the input amount of boards? If yes, which boards were excluded and on which board you focus?
Yeah, so it was when people come to the board, like for getting the labeled data, they obviously this pop-up comes. But when you enable the user, you make the user think that what is the purpose behind it. So when we conducted a survey, so a survey was conducted, and then we informed the user that this is the purpose of the survey. And during that period of the survey, the different users we targeted, they essentially tagged the boards. So they are much more reliable samples compared to all the samples we could have. So that's the reason we are focusing only on the 140K boards that we collected during the survey for enabling it, because the quality of the ML model will mainly depend upon how good your label data is. So yeah, that's the summary of it. So we can generate more, but like the focus was primarily on the data points we have collected last quarter of 2022. Now, as
Thank
we
you.
have this. The plan is to make things better in future. So like, I mean, this could be an online activity which we could trigger. So not having the model could be retrainable with an online learning approach. But those things are something that we are contemplating on as of now.
Okay, so we can move on. Next question: how many features in Miro roadmap are primarily driven by the results of the research currently? They were unrehearsed the research. So how many features in roadmap are primarily driven by the results of research?
Yeah. So this is I think we are trying to make the email systems better. So I mean, I hope the users are getting better emails. This is in process right now. We are trying to expand our increment into this onboarding checklist thing. Uh, so currently that's in pipeline kind of. So you will have a checklist which would essentially tell you which steps to follow or which one to follow. Uh, ACK recommendation was third one, but that is currently we are focusing that to the next quarter. So mainly these two are in roadmap. Few things we have already started working on, but the users will essentially receive a newsletter or something once this is fully rolled out for all users. When we do it on a section of users to understand how is the reciprocal or how are the different metrics or product metrics or downstream metrics are behaving. So when we see the traction higher, like for example, for emails, we already saw that the uplift was around 15%. The users were opening the emails more. So like, for example, this experiment that we did, we saw that there was a 15% uplift when we were sending better content. So that's a driver for us. So then we take certain sets of things, and it takes time to roll it out to across all the users. But the plan is that in future, as we take it level by level, this will be essentially passed out to all the users, and then you will see it. But yeah, a couple of these things are already in roadmap. The few things which are going to be taken up down the quarter.
Okay, and we have last question from the audience. So right now there is possible to find a frame in Miroverse, but sometimes they don't fit our needs. Does Miro have a plan to use AI in the direction of creating frames for us? I believe for us it's BAs.
Yeah. So to answer that question, see, there's some research work that is being going on. That I There are such few things in roadmap on how to enable that or how to work towards that. But I understand that Miroverse, there's a community which is growing, and we want to grow the community, but also parallelly trying to address that how can we provide more and more options to our users. But again, as I mentioned, using AI to create a board, we are looking at it. Not always the results are as fruitful as we always. It's not. It's like slightly tricky from that perspective of creating that board from it. So the main priority still is to drive more content or drive more users to the community in general. And as we explore, as the AI or this the different services we have, which in the current market of LLM, we plan to leverage some way so that we can increase upon the use cases and maybe provide better architecture, better material or better templates for the user. But that's in pipeline. That will take some time. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, and
Sorry,
last question.
I was not
Yeah,
able to take follow-up questions, but feel free to like message later so that, I mean, I was not able to see the follow-up questions or something, but I'm trying to answer based on what I could think.
no, I think it's okay. And one last thing about the questions. I want to ask you questions that we discussed before. I think it will be interesting for the audience as well. How do we plan to adapt the model to any alternative list of use cases?
Yeah. Okay. This is again very important because we have 6 use cases. This was designed from the perspective that what the research that has been done prior, that okay, these are the different use cases that we essentially try to address. And there was some, and the rules essentially were defined prior. I showed a plausible part where we were trying to compare what history used to be and what we have now. So so there were certain use cases which were there that time. Obviously, in the changing market, we have to come up with new use cases. So there are two ways to look at it. One, that the new use case could be renaming or an adaptation of the exact existing use case. Then it's a simple process. Then you just map it to the new use case. But if there's a completely new new data point coming in, or new one more use case which is coming in, then that we would need to have much more training data. So like we need to get much more, I mean, maybe have to like collect some sample, or conduct one more survey to get some more label data so that we can train on that use case. But again, it's a process that we have. So it's just basically integration. It's about just collecting the data. Rest of the model is in place. So the models are scalable. Is just to get the right amount of label data so that we can have a higher precision for that. Coming to that, this topic is slightly connected to one other point. Is like not all the performance numbers are not always same across all of these use cases. For some of the use cases, we are not performing as good as we wanted, and for some of them, we are performing to the highest of level that we want to achieve. So the precision at like 2 could be going up till 95, 96, and maybe for some of them it's not that good. Like maybe somewhere falling in around 70%, like lower range. So because of the labeled, how much labeled data that you have. So we are looking at these aspects on how to get certain more data points, on how to use more and more intuition. Like for example, this cadence features that we talked about, we came off with intuition that okay, maybe for agile, if it is not working somewhat good, can we use more of these patterns within the data, or how frequently that sessions are happening to use it. So yeah, getting some more data in certain in for a new use case will be the thing that we would be targeting.
Yeah, it's nice to hear. And sorry, I can not miss this question because the person just asked a question referring to a previous answer. Thank you. Also, you said that after you customized emails, you get 14% more conversion. Was it the same across all groups of users, or there were groups that responded way better or way worse?
So when we look at so primarily when we are doing experiments, we try to do it on the corporate users. So that's the cohort, because they are the actual drivers of and the more tractionable point of action. So when we are looking at these numbers, we essentially split our population into 50-50 across the corporate users. And these are people who are probably at least active at least in the last 6 months. So there were certain rules which are in place by the email marketing team. But I mean, like when you target this 2 million, I mean, like for example, some section of 2 million users, and they're split, then you give one of section of the users the exact same mail, the generic mail, versus the other section of users customized mail based on these different use cases. So we saw an uplift in the second part, where we have this as we call as a variant, versus the first one where we were sending a generic emails. I probably showed that diagram where we had these different emails screenshots. So content was different. Better content, people will like it. More stickiness, much more insights. Otherwise, people will not open it.
Thank you. I will take this advice for our community as well. Okay, so thank you, Tamoy, for your great speech. I want to remind everyone that it will be this speech is recorded, so you can rewatch it every time you want. And also, Tamoy, is it possible that you will share your link to, I don't know, LinkedIn or maybe some other social media that people who are very interested in this topic can uh, reach you and ask you questions about that, or you are not very social person?
So it's about two aspects. I think one is needs certain clearance in certain parts. I have tried to cover most of the topics, and if you would have observed, I was not trying to. So I have tried to cover most of it, but it requires certain permissions and approvals in terms of when you are sharing a PPT or a creation outside. I'll check back with the team exactly what the recommendations are, but I'm always happy for questions. So they can always have this recording at least in the first place while I take some necessary approvals. And yeah, and then I'm happy to like for this any question or someone who would be wanting to use more or facing some problems. I mean, we are happy as a team to always support them, and that's the primary purpose, to drive more traction and enable users.
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah,
Yeah.
we will figure
I
out
just
something.
take 1 minute. So so thanks everyone for being a part of the talk. I know that sometimes when you're talking about too many concepts, it becomes slightly difficult to consume all of it. But I hope I have tried to cover all of them, and I hope you can go back with a proper insight. I think most important part is not about which model you are fitting, but how can you value from those, and that's the part of storytelling, and how do we use this to make it more actionable insight for the salespeople and marketing. So that's how I see data science, and that's how I try to prepare my talk. So yeah, thanks everyone for being there.
Thank you so much, Tanmoy. Okay, everyone. So it was a first talk. Thank you, Tanmoy, again. And now we can talk about conference again a little more. So please don't forget to share your comments in a chat, share your questions, and also share your feedback. One second. Um, Okay, so yeah, we have this special form for feedback. I believe it will be visible on the screen, right? Thank you. So you can leave us feedback. You can leave feedback for Tanmoy, and we will pass it to him. All things that you asked or you suggest. Also, you can please don't leave comments about my mic. I know it was disaster, but okay, let's forget about it. And also, don't forget, please, to leave us topics that you want to hear the next time, and we will gladly cover them. So, yeah, that's all from our talks now. The next talk will be in 7 minutes on the same link, so don't miss it, please. It will be great. Our next two speakers, they're good presenters and they prepare something different than usual webinar. So please stay with us and have a good day.